a lot of you guys are in different places. You have different access to channels. You have different product types. And I think it would be irresponsible of me to start recommending one platform or another. What I'm going to do instead is show you how to pick your platform. Like, what's the smart way to go about choosing a platform and a method. So let's go with that. So there's a few fundamental questions. So really, it just involves thinking quite critically about what platforms you're on. What do I mean by that? So ask yourself, if your audience is there, first of all, how do they interact with this medium? I'll get into a couple of examples in a moment. And how do you measure success on the platform? This is something I really want to drive home as much as possible. You cannot just be looking at impressions, for example, as a measurement of success, which I've seen a lot of businesses do. Impressions are a really great measurement to see how many people you're reaching, but it doesn't give you any details about the quality of that interaction. And that's what we're really interested in, especially when we're doing this kind of thing. You could definitely get ads or get things, posts, articles, demos. You could get them all in front of people. But whether those people are interacting or not is the important thing. So, and this is what I'm trying to say, I suppose. Pretty much everyone is on everything. Like, yes, okay, Gen Z, we imagine them as being on TikTok, but they're searching things on Google. They're out there in real life. They see billboards. They read articles. They're everywhere. That you can target them on pretty much anything. And a lot of places, the way that you would target them is using demographic information, so age groups. But as Jordan was touching on before, I think it's more important to think about the headspace that these people are in, as opposed to just like saying that anyone below a certain age is a Gen Z gamer. There's actually, 9 personas of gamer. So, well, really 8 they are mostly represented in. Oh, sorry, 7. Anyway, so here's some examples. You could target millions of gamers on LinkedIn, right? They're there, but that's not where they go to interact with games. So you would never, unless you had a really specific reason to, that's not the place you would go to activate gamers. The other thing I want to mention is that, like, Twitch, which I hear this all the time from my clients. Twitch is a pretty obvious idea for somewhere to go to market to gamers, because it's the gamer thing, right? Like, that's where people go to watch games. But think about this, like, Twitch have made several products now. They have to keep developing products to serve ads that get around ad blockers, because of how many people who use Twitch have ad blockers installed, which tells you that people who are on Twitch aren't really interested in engaging with those ads if it's that bad, right? So instead of just thinking about like what are gamer platforms, think about like their intent levels and how easily they can take action as well. And I'm going to get into a lot more detail on that later as well. But yes, so consider intent though. Keep this in the back of your mind. I'll go through a couple of examples here. Here's a great one, the search engine. All right, so if somebody is using a search engine, they have high intent. They're searching for something, so they're looking for a very specific thing. If you're relevant, you'll be instantly considered. So for example, if they search for shoes, let's say Sonic the Hedgehog shoes, and you show up on Sonic the Hedgehog shoes, you're close to being purchased, right? You showed up for the thing that they were asking for. And then finally, action is extremely easy. So, and it's easy to measure as well. So it helps that it's digital. I mean, I'm a fan of digital because it's easy to measure, but this is not to say that this is the only thing you should do. So that's the example of search. Here's a different example, billboard, which is like a much more common awareness sort of channel, right? People view it depending on their physical location. This is something that we know about billboards. So the only people who are going to see it are people who are physically able to, at least a real life billboard that's not in some metaverse game. Intent level is impossible to quantify. So they could have really high intent or they could have really low intent, but you don't know that. You only know that there's people in this location. And there's, there are other ways to tell, but it's not as straightforward. Action is not immediately clear and will require follow-up. So yeah, they're not interacting with a billboard in a way where they can just click on something. Although now maybe QR is maybe going to take off. Everyone's been getting used to that since the pandemic, but you get what I'm saying. Finally, it's difficult to measure what you've generated from the billboard. So am I saying that you shouldn't use a billboard? Absolutely not. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. If billboards work for you, you should definitely use them. But if you're trying to do something with a new audience, I guess what I'm trying to get across here is that you shouldn't do something like a billboard first, right? When you start exploring a new market or a new audience, you should be testing and getting as much valuable feedback as possible. So choose something to activate on that's going to give you easy to interpret feedback. And then also, I guess something that I'm really into, because it's something that we do at WP. So at Webprofits, we use a digital growth framework, which we've created to systemize our approach to marketing businesses. But essentially, we allocate our resources based on need and trackability. And so we wouldn't consider something like a billboard until we knew that there were actions that could be taken after the billboard that are built in that lead to the conversion event, for example. But I will get into a more solid example of that later on. I feel like I say that there's something coming later on constantly, but trust me, it is all coming later on. Cool. So the other thing is test all this stuff, right? So determine which platform you're going to try, what KPI you're going to use to measure success. I'll go through a couple of examples of KPIs you might use in a moment. Obviously, a really obvious one would be like purchases or sales or app downloads or whatever. But there are other KPIs that you can use that measure like your impact on an audience that are a little bit more reliable. And then please use a control group. So I find that a lot of people in marketing, and this is not everybody, but I love significance when I'm doing my statistics. And so I prefer to use control groups. If you just do a campaign and it works, or if you do a campaign and it doesn't work, that doesn't necessarily tell you why it did or didn't work. So try and use control groups. I'll use a small example here. So back to our Logitech G example, with their new color collection range, right? They wanted to know what are the features that would resonate best. Remember before how I said we assumed, okay, well, people are going to resonate with the comfort and the aesthetics. Well, we wanted to put that assumption to the test, right? So we picked Facebook ads as a test platform. And that was because it's really easy to A/B test on Facebook ads. You can split the audiences in half. So it's quite a valuable thing for testing. And in the markets that we were in, it was prominent, right? So we performed our test in Europe. We performed our test in Japan as well, and other parts. But other parts of Asia as well. So we did this across multiple countries to get some of those results as well. And yeah, we decided to use CTR as the main metric, but also CPC and engagement rate. So why? Okay, because it's not sales. So I would say as a marketer that you can't control very much between where you leave off and the sales process begins. And I didn't want our results to be affected by anything like a sales process or like the website or like retailer that someone goes to purchase the product. So I decided instead that we would look at CTR as the main metric of just if someone gets an impression and they click on the ad that gets the more clicks is therefore, it has to be the most relevant to the audience. So that was the assumption that we operated under. And we controlled for every other variable besides just message. And then we compare those results across multiple regions. So this is an example of what that looks like. I've got the same screenshot on both ones. So you're seeing two examples of the control message. The comfort message, which had, instead of saying play your way with the color collection, said designed for comfort, designed for durable and playing for hours, that kind of thing. Super annoying that that's not the right one. But you can see that there was 142% increase in CTR performance using just a different message. Everything else is exactly the same. So I will say this, this was not the case in every region. So comfort messaging was better than control consistently in Europe. But then in Japan, we saw that like the control messaging wasn't the best, but performance-based messaging was still the best, even among across men and women actually as well, which is quite interesting. Anyway, so yes, I'm getting a couple of comments here, and I agree with them, by the way. I don't know if everyone can see the chat, but essentially, I will touch on what you just mentioned in a moment. So, okay, so by now you should have something relevant to sell. Obviously, you haven't whipped all of this up right now, but think about all of these things I've gone through and maybe review the recording, and you want to get to this place. So you know what you're going to give them. You know what you have to offer. And then you know where you're going to start testing and you know what market you're going to start testing in. So that should mean you're good to go, right? No, you're not good to go. Now you have to do the hard part, which is execute a great marketing campaign. So that means you got to use the right language. It means you got to use social proof. And I'll get into why in a moment. You need to create an omni-channel marketing funnel, and you need to measure as much as you possibly can, which I keep saying, but I'm going to say it forever. It's super important.